I want to show you how the new head, or acting head, I should say, of Secret Service is trying to explain this. I mean, the former president was nearly killed in front of all of America to see, and yet somehow this is just because they're not creative enough over at Secret Service? I mean, duh. Unbelievable stuff. Take a look.
Was a failure of imagination. A failure to imagine that we actually do live in a very dangerous world where people do actually want to do harm to our protectees. I think it was a failure to challenge our own assumptions. The assumptions that we know our partners are going to do everything they can, and they do this every day. But we didn't challenge our own assumptions of, we assume that someone's going to cover that. We assume that there's going to be uniform presence. We didn't challenge that internally during that advance.
I mean, that's sort of amazing. When you think of how big and bad bureaucracy really can be, that's a great example of it. I mean, and now they're sitting there saying, well, we didn't think about this. I mean, heck, you guys are the Secret Service. You're in charge of protecting former presidents. Look at what happened over in Japan to Abe. You really want something like that happening here? You don't think you'd be a little smarter? Maybe a little bit more anticipatory? I mean, what are you doing? You have one job, and that is to protect a specific person. And if you can't protect the specific person, then what the heck are you doing in this job? Period, right? End of story. It is utterly pathetic. And this is his excuse. Oh, sorry, we weren't creative enough. I mean, Chittle's out. She's gone. She had to resign. Right thing to do, by the way, under the circumstances, don't you think? It's a miracle. It is absolutely a miracle that President Trump was not killed. And they're sitting there saying, gee, maybe we just weren't creative enough. How about you actually give the team on the ground the resources that they need? I mean, actual resources, as in personnel, as in the money to hire the personnel so that they can keep everybody safe. I mean, that just kind of seems like a no-brainer. To me, anyway. Kind of seems like that, I think, to Ted Cruz, who was a little disturbed by all of this. By the way, this is the Real Clear Politics story. Citing sources, acting Secret Service chief played key role in limiting resources for Trump. So now you have to ask yourself, why would he do that? What was that all about? I mean, I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking it too. Was there a way for the Biden administration to perhaps tamper the amount of campaigning, limit the amount of campaigning that Donald Trump would be able to do if they didn't provide him with the resources? I mean, they're probably sitting there going, hey, wait a second. Why does he have all these tens of thousands of people showing up at all these rallies? Why is he doing all these rallies? We don't want him doing all these rallies, right? And so thus, if we just don't provide him with the necessary security, maybe he won't do these rallies. That's what I'm thinking. I know that's what you're thinking, and I know that's what Ted Cruz is thinking, so let's watch him. He's having at this guy on Capitol Hill, saying, this doesn't make any sense. Thank you very much.
So let me tell you what I believe. I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics. Did the same person who denied the request for additional security to President Trump also repeatedly deny the request for security to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was murdered by an assassin and whose uncle was murdered by an assassin? Did the same person make that decision?
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president, leadership appointed by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question. One, there is a process for a candidate nominee to receive protection.
Does the buck stop anywhere? Does the buck stop anywhere?
Process that the Hill
it's a bicameral, bipartisan process. What camera?
For a candidate,
you are not a Congress. You don't have a cameral.
Mr. Kennedy submitted a request that was referred over to the CPAC.
Okay, you're refusing to answer the question.
Okay, refusing to answer the question. Of course, he's refusing to answer the question because I think somehow he might be a little bit implicated. Again, if you go back to the reporting from Real Clear Politics in all of this, he might actually be the guy. And don't let me say it because this is actually their sourcing. This is Real Clear Politics, and I'm reporting it's a pretty good source. Okay, so I'm not bringing you anything crazy here. But he's, of course, the one who succeeded Kimberly Cheadle, who resigned last week after, quote, bipartisan calls following her widely panned testimony before the House Oversight Committee. Well, this guy's doing pretty bad, too. I think he's going to be asked to step down. Quote, it was Roe's decision alone to deny counter sniper teams to any Trump event outside of driving distance from D.C., according to these sources. Whoa. So, like, he's the guy saying no, and then when Senator Cruz is challenging him on it, he's like, no, we're not political. We're not political at all. Wouldn't answer the question. And these are kind of alarming moments, alarming things to be discovering. Well, Senator Hawley had a few things to say about this as well. Let's take a listen to Josh Hawley, who's getting into it. I mean, like I said, fireworks and then some on Capitol Hill.
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance. And as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the
what more do you need to investigate
was.
To know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot.
A lot of people didn't do their jobs.
I cannot put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
what do you mean put your thumb on the scale?
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service.
Is it not prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days,
then
just like you have.
Somebody to
and I will
hold
tell
them
you,
accountable.
Senator, I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity. And not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly,
we've got people
sir.
who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this, Senator.
You said earlier.
I mean, wow. And you wonder why people don't trust the government to do anything right at all. Again, I'm just going to go back to the Real Clear Politics article that basically tells you right then and there, that he was responsible for holding back resources. So if this sourcing is correct, and he's the guy who wouldn't sign on the dotted line to make sure that they had the counter snipers and make sure that they had the right personnel in Pennsylvania, then he is responsible. And it's probably exactly why he's so terrified to admit any of that. Hey, there's a lot coming out right now. Donald Trump has agreed to sit down with the FBI to give his impression of what went down. And of course, it's the same FBI that, wants to go after him for everything else. But nonetheless, they're going to try and get to the bottom of this. I don't have a lot of faith. There's a counter investigation that's being proposed by one congressman, a former sniper, which I think is really, really, really smart to do. I think that you need that just to balance whatever the FBI is doing, because I don't think a lot of people right now, for whatever reason, and you know what, they've got just a litany of things that we could list and we don't have all day, but a lot of people don't have a ton of faith in the FBI right now. So it would be helpful to have another investigation going on simultaneously, just to make sure, that we dot our I's and we cross our T's and we know exactly why this went down the way it did. Anyway, here's a big discovery. I reported this for you just earlier this week, that guess what? It is actually now true that the FBI is admitting that it indeed was a bullet that grazed Donald Trump's ear, his head. Originally, they kind of had you thinking it might be something else entirely. Well, Senator Kennedy got to the bottom of this one. I mean, really.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Abate. Am I saying your name right?
Yes, Senator. Thank you.
You are the Deputy Director of the FBI, is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Is there any doubt in your mind or in the collective mind of the FBI that President Trump was shot in the ear by a bullet fired by the assassin crooks?
Senator, there is absolutely no doubt in the FBI's mind whether former President Trump was hit with a bullet and
I'm going to stop it right there. Just because the other day there apparently was some doubt, certainly in Christopher Wray's mind. He wasn't entirely sure. He couldn't answer that question. It might have been shrapnel, right? And that's what the media was reporting. Oh, it might have been a teleprompter that broke. No, it turns out it was a bullet. It was a bullet. And finally, the FBI is admitting it. Listen.
in the ear. No doubt there never has been.
Okay.
I've been part of this investigation since the very beginning, and that has never been raised.
You're sure?
Yes.
It wasn't a space laser.
No.
You got
It wasn't a murder hornet.
Absolutely not.
It wasn't Sasquatch.
No, Senator.
It was a bullet
It was a bullet, Senator. 100%.
fired by crooks
Yes, sir.
that hit President Trump in the ear and almost killed him.
100%, Senator.
Okay. Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah. I'm really, really glad we cleared that up. I mean, crazy that it was left hanging out there for everybody to wonder about, right? I mean, think about that. How insane that we had to sit there and debate. Well, you know, and you had the media jumping on just exactly like the media would love to do. The lefties in the media saying, no, like he's making something bigger out of this than it really is. You want to talk about feeding conspiracy theories. When you have a vacuum, when you have a void of information, that's exactly what happens. And so finally the FBI coming out confirming that. Good.